Hey, hey, hey. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to Trust the Tape, which I have not gotten a cease and desist on. So for now, I'm saying those words.
My name is Jeff.
My name is Jeff Cavanaugh.
Hey, Brian.
That's Brian.
Hey, Jeff.
Bryan Broaddus, Super Bowl winning scout, former Cowboys scout as well, and draft dad of pretty much everybody that does, not everybody, but a lot of people who do draft coverage for you guys. He's the draft dad of a lot of people. So bow down and get your stuff together. I want him to grow his facial hair out, but he said no and that he wouldn't leave it up to the chat. But I would like to ask the chat if Brian should grow his facial hair out.
Nah, we're good. Appreciate you, though. I will take all your comments and questions, though, other than facial hair stuff.
All right. I have two things off the top that are the most pressing to me today that I want to talk to you about, Brian. One,
yes, sir.
Brian Schottenheimer got his second interview tomorrow. What are you thinking? Where are you on that? And then after that, what I want to do is I want to find the ideal CeeDee Lamb compliment with you after you tell me about Shoddy.
Yeah, man, you know me. I've kind of gone on record as saying I really don't care anything about the coaching search anymore because I don't think they're serious about it. But timeout. What are we time out about?
So Brian's on 105.3 The Fan, and I was listening when you guys were talking about Shoddy or whatever, and I loved it because you were just like, you're doing radio, so other people could still have opinions, and you're not saying we shouldn't discuss it. But I loved when you were just like, look, I'm doing the draft. Like, if they don't care about this coaching search, I'm not going to talk about it. I don't care. I'm going to do the draft. But anyway, coaching stuff.
No, well, it's funny. You know, Wolchuk basically called the owner out for he should sell the team. So, I mean, hey, good for him for doing that. He hadn't heard anything yet from over that side of the world. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I have my ideas, you know, who I'd like to see coach here and who, you know, maybe could help remedy the situation, you know, maybe get them over the top, maybe make them a better competitive team when it comes to the conference. You know, some of the things I always ask for a difference maker. And, you know, I do believe you have to have really good players to win these things, though. I think, you know, I've been around great coaches. Great coaches have told me great players make great coaches, you know, and I believe that's why I work hard. That's why we all work hard on the draft. You know, not that we can have any influence, but at least if we know the players out there that we're looking at, that we can have an idea and talk about where, you know, when a team like Philadelphia or San Francisco or Detroit draft a guy and you're thinking like, okay, they've got a better chance of winning the conference now because they got this guy, you know, and that's what I focus the draft on. I can't do anything to help the Dallas Cowboys. You know, I can't. Last time I did that was 2005, you know? So, I mean, to me, you know, it's just about, okay, who can I evaluate and see that maybe, okay, they picked a guy. This guy could be a difference maker. This guy could be a difference maker. That guy could be a difference maker. So, but the coaching thing, you know, like I say, I really wanted to see him draft. I wanted to see him sign Aaron Glenn. I really did. I thought he could have been a difference maker. And, you know, and Todd Archer and I were talking about it yesterday, and I'm like, why? Why do you not interview Aaron Glenn? And Todd's like, they got too far behind. They got behind the Jets. They got behind the Saints when they didn't interview him the week they had the opportunity to. They got behind. And I'm like, well, that's not an excuse. He goes, well, they didn't fire their coach. Dallas had not fired their coach. And I'm like, well, that's another, you know, but Todd was trying to be reasonable and I wasn't being reasonable, you know, and I apologize to Todd if he's listening to this one day, because I'm like, you know, well, damn it, that's not an excuse. And he's like, but Brian, that's reality. That's what they do here. You should know that. You worked here long enough to know that. And I'm like, okay, so now I'm trying to kind of remove myself. Okay, as I'm removing myself, people like said, hey, you know, yesterday you talked about, we got the second day of discussions with Schottenheimer. I did talk to Mike Zimmer. Mike told me that if Schottenheimer would get the job, he's not coming back. Mike Zimmer is not coming back. So, you know, we'll see. I mean, that's Mike Zimmer talking right now. Mike Zimmer, and I don't blame him about this. And so I'm just going to little talk about Mike Zimmer here. Mike has coached with 6 of the 10 coaches of the history of the Dallas Cowboys, you know, and he's been passed over 4 times for an opportunity to potentially be the head coach here. Mike Zimmer went away to Minnesota. They had some success at Minnesota. You know, Mike Zimmer feels like, okay, Brian Schottenheimer, you know, okay, I respect that. You know, why not? Do I get an opportunity? Why don't I get to talk about it? And so I understand why Mike Zimmer is a little bit of, hey, cool. If that's the route they want to go, Mike was not being bitter or anything. He just says, it's just hard when you have a career winning percentage of like 563 and you've been to the playoffs and all of a sudden you're kind of talking to these other guys. And I don't blame him that way. I mean, he came in, he did an adequate job this year. He got some guys to play better than, he got Oso Digizua to play well. He got Golston to play well. He got Jordan Lewis to play well. I mean, he got some Micah Parsons. He figured out ways to get guys to play better. So I understand why Mike Zimmer is a little bit frustrated by the situation. But, I don't believe Mike Zimmer will come back as your defensive coordinator if Brian Schottenheimer, in fact, is the head coach. Now, I was starting to hear some whispers late in the day yesterday that maybe Schottenheimer, and this goes back to Nick Harris from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Nick's talking about, I don't think the Schottenheimer stuff is for a head coaching job. And I'm like, I appreciate Nick doing that, man, because he could be really, really, really wrong, but he's standing on it, and that's cool. He's got a source or two that's helping him along the way. And so good for Nick standing on it. Nothing wrong with doing that. But I was and to be honest with you, I'm hoping that he's right. But the name I heard late in the day was that they were interested in potentially talking to Pete Carroll. And, Pete Carroll seems to be up for the for the Raiders job. There's people in Pete Carroll's camp feel like that this is Schottenheimer's job. So there's a lot going on here, and a lot going on because of Jerry Jones running the search, and it's going to kind of be a little bit all over the place. But, that's where we're at right now as far as what I know. And like you and I do this time every year, let's work hard on this drafting and try and figure it out for all these teams.
Yeah. So I was trying to think about how I wanted to talk about the draft today. And the thing that I came up with was a couple of different ideas. And I think the one that I want to start with is we're trying to find a friend for CeeDee.
Mm-hmm.
And it's possible that the best way to find a friend for CeeDee is actually going to be in free agency or via trade. If you feel like you just got other stuff you feel like you need to do, because they do have a lot of stuff they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
But Mel Kiper and Dane Brugler both did a mock draft that had the Cowboys drafting Luther Burden out of Missouri, who is a really, really fun, explosive, make shit happen kind of player. Get the ball in his hands and he'll make stuff happen. He also plays the slot in 81% of his snaps in college, and CeeDee's kind of a 50-50 slot outside guy. And so I actually don't think it's a perfect fit, but when you're looking for playmakers, you're looking for playmakers, and you make it work. You believe in your coaches to make it work. But I was thinking about the guys in the draft that I think fit, putting next to CeeDee Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in that scenario, in your dream world, you're looking for an X. You're looking for a full-size wide receiver that lets CeeDee be the move around, jump in the slot, be in motion sort of dude. And maybe I should just get ready for Jonathan Mingo to be my X, but I don't want to do that right now. And so I was going through my names of guys in this draft, and I wanted to ask you, how do you stack them up? Who do you think could be the perfect CeeDee complement? So I'm going to run out a list of names that I think fit that mold. Ted McMillan would be number one. The odds of him being available, I don't know, probably low-ish, but Ted McMillan at Arizona would be the top one if you're looking for that sort of player. After that, I wanted to get your thoughts on guys like Ayo Minor at Stanford, Trey Harris at Ole Miss. Is it Jaden Higgins? I should really put first names on my board. Higgins at Iowa State. Besh at TCU.
Right.
And any other names that you picture as a guy that could play the outside and let CeeDee go have fun. I picked the big guys.
Yeah, A. Mayor from Stanford would be the first guy that I would take out of that list. I think Ibuka would be really the number one guy if you wanted to say that, to have a potentially complement, let CeeDee do stuff.
But didn't Ibuka do stuff guy too? But he's played with some outstanding players at Ohio State, and he's played the second role of that guy, But yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at a guy that the route running ability, the ability to separate, him on the outside, I have Burden over the top of him. I just think because,
Burden, when you look at him, he is really dynamic with the ball in his hands, the run after catch, things like that. That's why I have him higher. But A.M. Mayor from Stanford makes a lot of sense. Besh from TCU makes a lot of sense. Harris, I watched yesterday from Ole Miss, makes a lot of sense. Higgins from Iowa State. I looked at a kid, Royals, from Utah State, that is a 6 foot, is a
205.
205 guy.
I watched him 2 days ago. Yeah, I know. I'm right there with you, buddy. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. He, to me, there's some very good complementary pieces in this draft. If you want to go that particular route, excuse me. And the thing with the thing why I would say with the Stanford receiver first, A.M. Manure, is because of his. I mean, you could see the size for the position. He's 6'2", he's 210. He's a Canadian kid, which is interesting. I mean,
it is interesting. When they become our 51st state, it won't be a big deal, though.
Yeah, he came to play high school football in the U.S. But he's got straight line speed. I feel like he's kind of one of these guys that builds up speed as he works his way up the field. He could track the ball. He can make some really unreal circus receptions. And the body control and, I mean, if you go back, and I know I did this player very early in the campaign before I had a lot of tape. You go back and watch the Colorado game when he's playing against Travis Hunter.
Oh, 2023?
Yeah, watch the second half of that. Yeah, watch the second half of that game, and you kind of see, he's catching balls. He catches a game-tying touchdown off the top of Hunter's head.
Yeah.
And his quarterback play has been kind of poor throughout his career.
You want to hear my favorite note that I've ever written about a guy?
What was that?
I'm proud of him that he didn't quit the sport. Playing on this team and not quitting the sport is very impressive.
Yeah, I mean,
his quarterback was terrible. His offense was terrible.
No, yeah, he's not the most initially quick guy, but he makes up for it in a lot of other areas. And I think he's a really good route runner. He could wear defenses out with his slants and his size and his ability and his willingness to go inside and catch the ball. And I mean, I like the way he fights defenders down the field. You remember Brendan Rice from USC?
Jerry
Rice.
Yeah, but I didn't like his tape at all.
Yeah. Okay. There's some things. Remember, Brendan Rice was able to kind of do the same thing, fight down the field, make some catches and stuff like that. Physical with the ball in his hands. A little bit of that. And that's why when I was watching him, I think our Stanford kid's a better player, but it just kind of reminded me of Williams throwing the ball and this guy going over the top and, catching balls and stuff like that. He's just, Manure, he's not going to run away from anybody, but he does finish. I mean, you see him finish. And, at 6'2" and 210, I love the size. I love the desire. I think he's a quality player. That if you were looking for that X type of receiver, absolutely, he would be the number one guy in my book.
So when I'm watching I guess it applies to every position, but when I'm watching wide receivers, and the reason that I struggled with, and we'll get to him, Trey Harris at Ole Miss, is I'm looking for your thing, like the why does he win kind of deal. And with Ayomanor, I guess we'll disagree about part of his physical profile, because when you get a guy that's that big, but I think that he's really good off the line of scrimmage. And I think that the way that he explodes into a route, I think that's kind of his thing, is that he's a full-size guy.
Sure.
And he can be hell on wheels coming off the line and hard to deal with. A lot of these big guys, it's just, can they overpower you? Can they outposition you?
Well,
he can get that and then kind of get away from you.
That's kind of like Royals. For a big guy. Yeah, it's like Royals from Utah.
Do you think Royals is a play anywhere guy? He plays outside for them, but I watch him and I'm like, boy, that's a slot dude.
No, well, he's played. It's funny because he's played. I believe he played. I looked at the metrics on this because I was curious. He had this kid averages a touchdown a game. This Jalen Royals from Utah State. and he played on a very poor football team.
Yeah.
But he had 24, or excuse me, he had 64 snaps this year in the slot. You know
Yeah.
who he reminds me of?
He reminds me of a discount Luther Burden. I think his best thing is after the catch.
Yeah. Remember Jaden Reed coming out of Michigan State?
Yeah.
This kid reminds me of Jaden Reed.
Yeah, kind of not tall, I mean, he might be shorter honestly, he might be shorter than
Jaden Reed's 5'11". Jaden Reed is 5'11". He's 187 coming out of Michigan State. This kid Royals, what we're working off right now is 6 foot 205 from Utah State. And but I'll tell you what, man, he is a thick looking guy. He looks bigger on tape than I think his measurables say. I mean, I just looked the way
I think he's shorter. I think he's probably 5'11", 205.
Well, he plays big though, but he had 64. He got hurt his foot at the end of the year and missed some games at the end. Probably need to check that. But he had 64 snaps in the slot. So, but every year they put him more in the slot, and it might have been because of the lack of some talent there at Utah State.
Well, they do dumb stuff. They do dumb stuff. To your point, they'll be on the far right hash.
Yeah.
And they will have him lined up on the left sideline. And when I say left sideline, I don't mean the numbers. I mean, he's on the sideline, and they'll throw him a 10-yard comeback. And he has to come back to make it a 4-yard catch by the time he gets to it because the ball's in the air for a half hour. They do some wild shit at Utah State. No, I liked Royals a lot. I just don't know. Like, I think his thing to me was the after the catch. Like, you get it to him, and that first dude's in trouble. Like, he's
he's a bully. This guy's a bully. He really is a bully with the ball in his hands. But yeah, I mean, I really, really liked him the way that he played. Now, I will say this Jack Besh from that's at TCU, because I wish this kid would have never left LSU.
That's a big boy, Jack Besh.
Yeah, he's 6'2", 215, and I'll tell you what, he led as a freshman, he led LSU in receptions. I mean, he was big time player for LSU, and he also
looks like us. Just if you're new here,
6'2",
215, scouting term, he looks like us.
Yeah. I saw him play wide and in the slot both. I mean, I think he could be a factor in either one of those spots. I feel like he really has a feel for how to attack the middle of the field with the way he runs his routes. Head around,
everything.
Yeah, tracks it. Yeah, he did at LSU. I mean, he's a threat. I again, looking at metrics, guy like now I have this ability to go back after I watch these guys. I'm looking at metrics. I'm like, okay, I'm seeing this. 65% of his catches are contested ones. I mean, this guy makes contested plays,
which can be viewed as a good and a bad thing.
Well, does he run well? Does he run well enough, or does he? But I mean, he breaks tackles. He'll push off tacklers. He can push off in routes. I'm going to tell you what, this kid's got some Cooper Kupp to his game. The way he plays, the way he kind of is, the inside stuff, the pushing off, the kind of breaking out of routes, and the way he catches the football. Like, my last line was this thing. I said, I wish he would have stayed at LSU.
Yeah.
And they would have been, Jaden Daniels would have been even a better player. Garrett Nussmeier would have been even a better player, with this kind of player. But I mean, this guy, he really does a good job adjusting on the fly. You watch the routes and whatever's given to him, he goes and knows how to take that. So I wouldn't call him a Blazer. Would not call him a Blazer at all, but he does separate when he gets down the field with his stride.
I thought to the contested catch thing that, I think he's a really good player. That my understanding is when he got to TCU, they were kind of having to decide, is this guy going to be a small tight end or is he going to be a really big receiver? Because he might be more than 215. Like, he's a big dude.
He's a big dude.
But I mean, you want to talk about fighting through a route, catch everything, never drop anything, kind of do it all, block. Like, he's a good player. I do have questions about the speed and the overall athleticism. There's a reason he had to make contested catches, but whatever, it plays.
Well, but I mean, let's be honest too. We're going to talk about, the kid. We're going to talk about the Iowa State kid. We're going to talk about Higgins. And nobody in the country had more contested catches than this cat.
Yeah.
I mean, you could watch his tape, and I mean, he's a good looking kid. He's 6'4", he's 215. Remember we looked at Alan Lazar. We looked at another big Iowa State guy back in the day. But this guy, this Jaden Higgins, he can't run out of sight, but catches all the balls. He plays well in the red zone. He makes contested catches, as I mentioned. He can box dudes out, with the way he's going at it. Takes him a little time to get going. Stride gets him up the field. But, when he can play on the move, he's going to be okay. And he's got – I don't know if he's going to be a great rack receiver. I don't know if it's always going to be run after catch, this guy. But he gets first downs. Every time you look up, the son of a gun's catching a ball for a first down. So they run routes. I mean, you talk about routes in the slot. Metrics tells me he had 138 slot routes this year. I mean, 6'4", 215 playing out of the slot. I mean, maybe Iowa State, it's one of those things. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do in order to get your guys open and get them going.
Feel bad about a super chat when I haven't seen a guy that you ask about, but I'm sorry. I've not seen Efton Chisholm III, but I did just Google him.
Yeah, I feel bad too. But I think the same person asked the question before on the super chat. So my apologies. I'm working down a list, and unfortunately, some of these players are down a list, and it doesn't mean it means, hey, they might be down a list, and all of a sudden they're at the top of your list when you start talking about them.
Brian, do you want to give people a speech, or should I give people a speech about how you rank players, and if you want to do this for yourself and you're watching players, and how you can't let other people affect your rankings? Because I'd be happy to give people a speech real quick, because somebody mentioned that the Pro Football Focus rankings just got updated, and there's some huge surprises. That's why you don't care what anyone else's rankings say, because what happens in this world is too many people's are an accumulation of other people's. And what's the point? Like, what's the point of having your rankings react to someone else's rankings? It's silly. I'll have guys move around a little bit as I continue to watch, or I'll be like, you know what? I don't feel great about where I am on this guy, or when I try to talk about somebody and I'm like, shit, I don't like where I was on that guy, or not feeling confident, and I'll go watch him some more, and guys will get shifted around. But when you see a guy that's ranked 150th and then he's ranked 23rd, they didn't rank him to begin with.
Yeah.
So just nobody else's rankings matter. If you watch these guys, put them where you put them. And when if people disagree, who cares? You'll be right or you're wrong. And if you're wrong, see if you can learn something for next time.
When scouts go into schools, they have what they call the master sheet for the school that they're visiting, with all the players on the sheet. I would give anything to go back and be able to have the master sheets where I could just look at the players, go to the school and evaluate the players and go from there. There does have to be a starting point. I've always appreciated the fact that we have a great teammate in Dane Brugler that will, like, Dane starts on this Memorial Day and then goes. And his list of guys, his top 150, is generally a good starting point for a lot of us.
Yeah.
And then work from there. Now, you don't have to always agree with Dane, and he doesn't always agree with us, but at least it gives you a good starting point. And I think we're starting to see it with Scorton, the Texas A&M edge, a little bit. A lot of people had him way, way high on potential, and then mock drafts have now dropped him into the 20s. So there's a lot of things that go on. As long as you just have a starting point, evaluate the players, put them where you think they need to be, and then live with that. Die on those hills. Sometimes you got to die on a hill, to learn.
Sometimes it'll take years until somebody actually gives a shot to the guy that you said deserves a shot, because Darius Washington is too small to play football. And then he saves the Ravens' entire defense, and he's about to get paid. Sometimes you got to fight for your guy. And sometimes you need an Darius Washington to balance out your Sky Moore. You need a little yin and yang.
It happens. Like I said, hey, I've had my shares of the Blake Bortles of the world, and you get a Josh Allen and you get a Mahomes, and so sometimes you do, but that's just, you need a starting point, and those names are good to have starting points. If you don't like I say, I struggle with, Jeff was mentioning about struggling with some players. I struggle with Scorton and some of these edge rushers. I haven't seen these guys as cleanly as I need to see them, and it's not because of lack of tape or anything. I haven't gotten a rhythm yet about what these guys are. I understand. I saw somebody ask about Mike Green. Mike Green from Marshall's now, way up the board. When Mike Green started, he was way down the board.
He was way down. He was like 60 or 70 something.
Yeah,
I watched him.
I remember
I put him in the first round. I got vocal about it online, and suddenly he's number 11. Woo! Whatever.
Dane Brugler. I saw Dane Brugler one time. He had Joe Burrow as top 50. He had Joe Burrow at number 50. And Joe Burrow ended up being in that draft, ended up being number 1 overall. But that's where Dane saw him initially. You got to have a starting point, but
he's also ranking before a season even starts, so his are going to change. People who have him during an off season, and now they're changing drastically. Like you either hadn't watched him to begin with, or you're responding to the public, and either one of those is silly.
Mike Mayock. And I like Mike Mayock. When Mike was working for the NFL Network, he always did a top 5 by position. And he'd have top 5, same names. And then we'd get after the combine or we'd get after, and 3 of his top 5 guys were gone.
Because he was talking to people in the NFL who told him he was wrong, and he would just change to reflect someone else's opinion. What's the point of doing it if you're going to do it that way? I don't get it.
Don't be afraid to die on that hill. I mean, there's some honor out there. If you're doing your own work and you're talking about a guy and he works out, good for you. If he doesn't work out, there's another draft. Just keep working. Just keep working. I mean,
try to do better.
I've been doing this since 1992. There's a lot you'll remember your misses more than you remember your hits. But but you learn from that. Go ahead.
Mike Green, the Marshall pass rusher, is actually I think he should be in play for the Cowboys at 12. But I will say this about him, and here's another draft thing. I think to me, where I rank Mike Green absolutely can change. Because what I have right now is what I think about him on tape. And everything I have about him on tape is playing against dudes who absolutely will not play NFL football. So I see him physically. I've got what I think he is. And now he's going to go to the Senior Bowl.
There you go.
And if he goes to the Senior Bowl and he kicks their ass, I'm confirmed how I feel about him. If he goes to the Senior Bowl and he gets his ass kicked, I will absolutely move him to the second round. Because I watched him play Mike Green against guys that doesn't matter.
VMI.
And so I watched him. I forgot the 2 tiny schools, and I turned it off after a few minutes. I was like, okay, I'll watch Ohio State. I got the Ohio State tape.
Then you get Ohio State. Yeah. There you go.
I watched that. He destroyed them.
Yeah.
So I fired a text to the guy who I know knows every player. And I said, hey, and you know who it is. Hey, Dane. And I was like, how is Mike Green not a first round player? Like, I just watched him destroy Ohio State. I was like, what I need to know is Ohio State's right tackle a player or not? And Dane was like, absolutely not. And I was like, okay. So I can't even take the Ohio State game and say that he's out here crushing it. So that the Senior Bowl will matter to Mike Green because I haven't seen him play against a good player.
Sure.
But he looks awesome.
Mike Green started his career at Virginia, and so he did at one point in the time of his life. He was playing well he was an ACC player. We'll see. I mean, that's the great thing about what those guys do, what Jim Nagy and those guys do at the Senior Bowl. They do get some really good matchups, and the great thing too, the playoffs, the playoff film as we get it is going to be really good because those are 3-4 really good matchups that you can watch on a player towards the end of the year. I know that there's the tackle Jackson, who Ohio State, who had to kick outside because of Simmons got hurt.
Dude, his season was wild.
Oh,
2.5 years starting at guard.
Yeah.
And if you watch the first game where he moved to left tackle to be the hero, you would say that dude can't play because it was against Abdul Carter.
Right.
And then if you watch the rest of the year, you'd go, holy crap, he can play tackle.
He got better. He got better. Absolutely. So, yeah. Hey, real quick, Clemente Espinoza wants to know something. He's asking about Scatterboo. And you said something the other day that triggered me a little bit just to ask this question. Tell Clemente what you think about Scatterboo and why you don't think he needs to be picked in the 3rd round.
No. I'm not. See, okay, I don't need to be clear about draft stuff. Where I rank players is absolutely positively not a guess at where they're getting picked.
Sure.
It's what I think.
No, I'm just
Scatterboo is my
I just want you
last.
to tell me about Scatterboo. Yeah, go ahead.
I've seen 9 running backs. He's my 9th running back currently.
Sure.
I just don't think he's a good athlete. I think I watched him, and when they block it up and give him a chance, yeah, he runs angry. He'll break tackles. He'll raise some hell.
Yeah.
But I think he's just not. He doesn't have the same ability to pick through holes and give himself a chance to make plays that aren't there. He can somewhat running through crappy tackle attempts, but and I don't mean to be down on him. I know the world.
It's your opinion, and that's. I mean, I'm curious always because I've worked with you a long time. I always respect your opinion on that.
I think I would take him like in the 4th round and pair him with somebody who's a much better athlete, and he could be maybe you're just a rotational one of 2 running backs on your team, probably the short yardage guy. I don't think the way that he won in college, I don't think he'll win that way in the NFL. I think Ashton Jeanty will continue to break tackles.
Yeah.
Because I think he's that sort of athlete. And like he's not doing it just by get low and see if these guys fall off a tackle. He's doing it by holy shit, here comes Ashton Jeanty. So I think Scatterbo deserves a shot to play in the NFL, and I think he might be in a rotation with somebody, but I don't think that he's one of those guys like Jeanty I would take in the 1st round, Hampton, North Carolina 2nd round, Johnson, Iowa 2nd round, Ohio State guys 3rd round, RJ Harvey 3rd round. I don't think that Scatterbo is as good as any of those guys.
Did I hear? I'm sorry. Did you say anything about Sampson from Tennessee?
Oh, I got him in the 3rd round also. Yeah, Sampson from Tennessee, 3rd round.
I struggle with him because I think he's a lot better than I have him. I have him in the 3rd round too, but I have Henderson from Ohio State is my 2nd round guy, and then I have.
See, most people aren't going to tell you the truth about their scouting, guys. This is why you need to be here. Well, when I tell you Henderson and Judkins, the Ohio State running backs, when I tell you I've been jumping those 2 around each other, 2nd round, 3rd round, maybe this one's a 4th round. No, they're in the 3rd. Oh, 2nd round. And then every playoff game, I'm like, should I switch them again? Should I flip them back? I don't have a great feel for which one of those I'd rather have. I want both of them. They're perfect complements to each other.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about him. I think this is a really good class of running backs, though. I mean, I'm excited about the guys that are on this list, and and be able to kind of navigate. I just hope that Dallas is, it's going to be interesting to see how they play this thing. I don't necessarily. I'd be shocked if they did take Jeanty in the 1st round. I would be.
You'd be shocked.
I would be. I would be.
I wouldn't. I'd bet on it. I mean, I wouldn't bet on it.
I want you to be. I want you to be right. I want you to be right. But I could. I hope that he's their best player on their board. I hope he's.
Oh, if he's there, he'll be the best player on the board, unless you just.
That's what I'm saying.
He would be
the best player on my board. I know that. And again, Jeff, they don't give a damn what I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It just seems like they could take one of those wide receivers. That'd be just, that'd be fine. That'd be fine. I mean, this thing stretches. The problem I worry about Dallas is if they didn't take him in the 1st round, if they didn't take Jeanty in the 1st round and then they wait, are they going to take the right guy as they wait? And there's a lot of them. But I think there's a lot of these backs that as you build your offensive line, and Dallas is going to have to do that. Jeanty makes your offensive line better as you're building it. These other guys probably need a better offensive line to have success. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Jeanty gives you a chance on plays, but I mean, we've seen it. Saquon Barkley wasn't doing what he does now behind the Giants line. And,
but he never was healthy either, too.
I mean, we saw him for 5 years. Like he had healthy moments. He was averaging 4.5, not 6.
But you know what? I think that to me with Jeanty, I don't think Dallas's line is terrible, but I think that it's one of those things. Like, trust me, I watched Walter Payton and Barry Sanders play behind bad offensive lines, and have success. I mean, it does happen, but to me, I just kind of feel I hope that they take Jeanty. I really, really do. Because I'm just looking for the cleanest, safest, best player on the board.
I think there's a chance the cleanest, safest, best player on the board. And Jello, we're going to get to your question in just a second, and then we got.
Is it Ibuka from Ohio State?
No. I think that the cleanest, safest pick might end up being a left tackle, and I don't think they'll do it because they just used a pick on a guy they hope is their left tackle. I think the trio of Banks at Texas, Campbell at LSU, Simmons at Ohio State. One of them will be there, and for me, might be the best player, not named Jeanty. and it's a premium position. And I think that they would be afraid to make the pick because they used one last year and they hate to admit they're wrong. And I don't like that.
If that's the case, I hope Dr. Cooper from the Cowboys, and I'm just looking at it from a Cowboys perspective, I hope Dr. Cooper gives that Simmons a clean bill of health. I really do.
He's awesome. I love all three of them. Jello, how many games do you watch to get a good feel for a player? You know, under Dr. Broaddus, I think that answer would have been 3 or 4. And I'll be honest, I probably watch less of every player now. To me, it's when do I feel like I got him?
There you go. If you feel like you got the player, now I've seen Jeff scout a player in 8 plays before. And
felt like I got him. Can't play.
Jeff's been right about that. I've seen Jeff watch 5 games, and
that's because the great Kevin Turner would come in with a name that he got from a cousin that play, and he'll turn on the tape, and I don't need even 8. I'll see 3, and I'll be like, I'm gonna go get a snack. Like, this guy ain't going on the board. He can't play.
I'm gonna eat about 4 of these Reese's peanut butter cups to the next player who shows up. No, but
Abdul Carter takes 8 plays, and you go done.
Yeah, until you get a feel for the player. That's absolutely what it is. If you got a feel and an understanding, and you can maybe compare him to somebody you've seen before, that always helps you.
I have not watched a guy named Tootin yet, but I do like a guy named Tootin. And don't send super chats because I have to go to work. Brian's got to get ready to work. Brian works 47 hours a day. So make sure you check him out with Vach all the time. Make sure you check him out on 105.3 The Fan. Check him out everywhere. I'm going to do the DLLS Cowboys podcast. Make sure that you're subscribed to that. YouTube.com/@DLLS_sports. Follow us around. Do the things.
Hey, Bri.
Hey, Bri. Have a great day.
Thank you too, Jeffrey. Appreciate that.
Remember,